26,000 people. That's all that was left of an entire species. Not soldiers, not warriors, children who hadn't eaten in 3 days, grandmothers who stopped speaking because there was nothing left to say, a doctor holding a dying boy's hand, out of medicine, out of time, out of anything to offer except stay with me. Just stay with me. They had been running for 3 generations. Not years, generations. Grandparents who remembered home died still running. Parents who were born running died still running. And now their children, the last of them, drifted dead in the dark above a world they'd never even heard of, waiting for an answer that would decide whether their species had a future or ended, quietly, forgotten. 34 broken ships from a planet that owed them nothing. The people who found them had 1 FTL engine and 60 years of spaceflight to their name. Everyone else in the galaxy had written them off as children playing with toys. They were about to learn exactly how wrong that was. This is the story of what happens when the last people anyone expected to help actually did, and what it cost the ones who'd been lying to them for 60 years to find that out. Chapter 1. The Last Harbor. The stars twisted and unraveled as the Ilvath fleet dropped out of subspace at the edge of the solar system. 34 ships, every one of them battered, every one of them slowly dying. Inside them, 26,000 souls, the last of a people with nowhere left to run. Commander Sorel Anna stood on the bridge of the last harbor, the largest ship remaining from what had once been a mighty fleet. Her fingers gripped the railing so hard, her scaled knuckles paled. On the view screen hung a blue-green sphere, Earth, a young species that had gained faster-than-light travel only 60 years ago. Few in the galaxy knew much about humans, and fewer still expected anything from them. But right now, Earth was the Ilvath's only hope. Behind Sorel, her crew worked in silence. The bridge was meant to hold 15 officers. Only 6 remained. The others had died during the long flight, from wounds, from sickness, and some had simply stopped eating once they stopped believing the flight had a point. Sorel closed her eyes and remembered home. Sarah. Once there had been forests that glowed at night with their own bioluminescent light, and cities carved straight into living coral-like stone. Then the Kesh Ascendancy, old allies, patrons, who for centuries had called themselves elder brothers to younger species, decided the Ilvath no longer deserved freedom. The protectorate became a prison. When the Ilvath rebelled and fled, the Kesh declared them escaped property and began the hunt. For 3 generations, the Ilvath had run from system to system, always one step ahead of Kesh hunting squadrons. Now only 34 ships remained, and they too were dying. "Commander, we're being hailed," said the communications officer, a young man named Joran, too young for his rank. All the experienced officers were dead. "Put it through." The screen changed. A human appeared, wearing a dark blue uniform with silver markings. His face was serious but not hostile. "This is Captain Elena Brandt, Earth Concord Vessel Meridian. You've entered the solar system without authorization. State your intentions." Sorel straightened. She'd rehearsed this speech for weeks. "Captain Brandt, I am Commander Sorel Anna of the Ilvath people. We come in peace. We are not warriors or traitors. We are the last survivors of our species. For 3 generations we fled the Kesh Ascendancy. They destroyed our freedom, hunted us across the stars. We have nowhere else to go." She paused, feeling her throat tighten. "We ask for shelter, a place to rest, time to rebuild. We have little to offer except our labor and our gratitude, but we are desperate. You are our last hope." Brandt's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes softened. "Commander Anna, hold your position. I need to relay your request to Earth's government. This decision is above my authority." "We understand, but please, hurry. Our ships are failing. Food and medical supplies are limited. Many of our people are sick." "Acknowledged," Brandt said. "I'll make sure they know the urgency. Meridian out." The screen went dark. Sorel sank heavily into the command chair. Around her, the crew watched her with desperate hope in their eyes. "Now we wait," she said quietly. Chapter 2. The waiting. The waiting was unbearable. Hours turned into days. The ships drifted in space, engines shut down to conserve power. People rationed food that was already too scarce. The medical bays overflowed with the sick and wounded. Sorel walked the corridors of her ship every day. She needed to see her people, needed them to see her, still fighting, still hoping. On the lower decks, families huddled together for warmth as the heating systems failed. In the medical bay, Dr. Vorin worked without sleep. "Commander," Vorin said when she visited, his hands trembling with exhaustion. "We lost 9 more today. Mostly children and the elderly. I can't keep going with what we have." "Hold on," Sorel told him. "Just a little longer." But she didn't believe her own words. On the 3rd day, the message came. Sorel had been trying to sleep when Joran called her to the bridge. She ran through the corridors, heart pounding. This was it. Yes or no. Life or death. On the screen appeared a gray-haired woman in formal attire. Her face was kind but tired. "Commander Anna, I am Secretary General Amara Reyes, speaking for all of humanity." Sorel held her breath. "Your request for asylum has been reviewed by Earth's governments," Reyes continued. "We debated, we argued. Some said we couldn't afford to help. Others feared it would bring conflict into our system. But in the end, we decided those concerns didn't matter as much as doing what's right." Reyes leaned forward slightly. "Commander Anna, on behalf of Earth and all humanity, we grant you and your people asylum. You are welcome in the solar system. We're preparing a home for you right now." Tears streamed down Sorel's face. Across the bridge, her crew wept too. Someone laughed. Someone embraced a neighbor. Joran sat at his station with his head in his hands, shoulders shaking. "Thank you," Sorel managed. "Thank you. You've saved us. We will never forget this." Reyes smiled. "You'll be guided to Elysium Station, an orbital habitat between Earth and Mars. We built it years ago but never populated it. It will be your new home. Our ships are already en route with supplies and assistance." "We're in your debt," Sorel said. "No debt," Reyes replied. "When someone needs help, you help them. That's all. Welcome to the solar system, Commander. Welcome home." Chapter 3. A station built for strangers. The Ilvath fleet approached Elysium Station slowly. Sorel watched through the view screen as the massive structure grew larger, a ring of metal and glass sparkling in sunlight, rotating slowly to create artificial gravity. It looked like it could hold hundreds of thousands. "It's empty," Joran said, reading his sensors. "The whole station. They built all this and never used it. And now they're giving it to us," Sorel said softly. She could hardly believe it. When Sorel first stepped onto the station, a man was waiting for her. Tall, broad-shouldered, in work clothes stained with grease. He smiled and extended his hand. "Commander Anna, I'm Aldo Ferreira, construction supervisor. Welcome to Elysium Station." Sorel carefully took his hand. Human handshakes felt strange, but she had studied their customs. "Thank you, Mr. Ferreira. This station is remarkable." "Just Aldo," he said. "And you haven't seen anything yet. Come on, I'll show you what we're doing." He led her through the station. Everywhere, humans were working, installing new life support systems, raising walls, mounting generators. The noise was incredible. "We're retrofitting everything for your biology," Aldo explained. "Air mixture, water filtration, temperature control. We brought in xenobiologists to make sure everything's safe for you." "This must be very expensive," Sorel said. Aldo shrugged. "Probably, but that's not my problem. My problem is getting this place ready for 26,000 new residents in 3 weeks." 3 weeks? Sorel stopped walking. "That's impossible." "You haven't seen human construction crews." Aldo grinned. "We work in shifts, 24 hours a day. When one team gets tired, another takes over. We'll get it done." Over the following days, The station transformed. When Aldo learned that Ilvath loved luminous forests, he immediately ordered plants shipped from Earth, and soon whole sections bloomed. "Why are you doing all this?" Sorel asked one day. "You could build something simple." "This is your home now," Aldo replied. "And a home should make you happy, not just keep you alive." Medical ships brought supplies and personnel. Dr. Naomi Vance worked with Dr. Voren, studying Ilvath physiology. In the third week, a viral outbreak swept through the children. Naomi didn't sleep for 60 hours until she found a treatment. When Sorel thanked her, Naomi just smiled tiredly. "It's my job. Doesn't matter what species is in front of me." Chapter 4. The Shadow of the Past. The message arrived on a Tuesday morning, Earth time. Sorel was in a meeting with Aldo, discussing an expansion of the agricultural section, when Secretary General Reyes called. "Commander, we've received a communication from the Kesh Ascendancy." Reyes's face was grave. "They know you're here." Sorel's blood ran cold. "What did they say?" "They claim the Ilvath people are their escaped property. They're demanding immediate surrender." "And what did you tell them?" Sorel asked, though she feared the answer. Reyes's expression hardened. "I told them the Ilvath people are under Earth's protection, that they are free beings, not property, and that we do not negotiate with slavers." The worst part wasn't the message itself. It was what stood behind it. The Kesh weren't just some foreign empire. They were Earth's oldest allies. Centuries ago, Kesh engineers had helped humanity make its first faster-than-light leap. They called themselves mentors, friends, elder brothers to a young species. And now those friends had shown their true face. "They'll come for us," Sorel said quietly. "The Kesh don't tolerate defiance." "We're prepared for that," Reyes replied. "Earth doesn't abandon those who come to us for shelter." When the call ended, Sorel sat in silence. Aldo watched her with concern. "They're going to go to war against their own mentors because of us," she said. "Would you rather we hand you over?" Aldo asked. "No, but I don't want you dying for us either." Aldo stood and walked to the window. "See all this? Everyone living here now. That's worth fighting for. You asked us for shelter. We didn't just give you a roof. We gave you a home. And we protect our home." News of the Kesh threat spread fast. Ordinary people on Earth learned about the refugees, saw footage of children who had nearly died from the outbreak, heard stories of 3 generations on the run. Public support for defending the Ilvath was overwhelming. Sorel received thousands of messages from strangers. One came from a child. "Dear Ilvath friends, don't be scared. My dad is in the Space Navy. Welcome to our solar system." Sorel kept it on her wall, where she could see it every day. Chapter 5. First Blood. 3 weeks later, the first Kesh warships arrived in the system. Not 20, not 30. Just a small advanced detachment, sent to deliver a warning. Admiral Renata Solis stood on the command deck of her flagship, the Valiant, watching her fleet take position. 53 ships surrounded Elysium Station in a defensive formation drilled for months. "Admiral, long-range sensors are picking up subspace signatures," the tactical officer reported. "Multiple contacts." "Here we go," Solis said quietly. "Sound general quarters." The Kesh fleet emerged from subspace, a wall of metal and menace. 12 warships, each larger than anything in Earth's fleet. Their hulls dark and angular, covered in weapon ports and armor plating. A face appeared on every screen. Reptilian, dark violet scales, cold eyes. "I am Warden Trellandoon of the Kesh Ascendancy," the voice boomed. "You are harboring escaped property of the Ascendancy. You have 1 hour to surrender them, or we will destroy your station and every ship defending it." Admiral Solis opened a channel. "This is Admiral Renata Solis. Earth conquered. The beings you call property are a free people under our protection. Your demand is denied." Doone's laughter was harsh and mocking. "You believe your primitive vessels can stop the Ascendancy. You will learn the cost of defiance." The channel closed. The Kesh fleet advanced in a straight line. No tactics, no subtlety. The confidence of predators who had never known defeat. Captain Elena Brandt, aboard the Meridian, moved to intercept the lead Kesh ship. The Meridian was smaller but faster, fitted with an experimental inertial dampening system that let it maneuver in ways that should have been impossible. When the Kesh ship fired its first volley of plasma bolts, the Meridian twisted and accelerated, and the deadly energy tore through empty space where the ship had been a moment before. Then the Meridian returned fire. Not plasma, not lasers, railgun rounds. Solid tungsten rods accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. Kesh shields, built to absorb energy weapons, did nothing against solid matter at relativistic speeds. In 30 seconds, the massive Kesh cruiser was a tumbling wreck, atmosphere venting from a dozen holes. On his flagship, Warden Dune stared in disbelief. One of his heavy cruisers destroyed in seconds by a ship half its size. Impossible. The battle was short. This had only been a reconnaissance group. 20 minutes later, the surviving Kesh ships retreated into subspace, promising to return with the full fleet. On Elysium Station, Sorel had watched it all from the command center. When the all-clear sounded, she sat down and wept. Not from fear, from overwhelming gratitude and heavy guilt. Chapter 6. The Archive Under the Ice. After the first engagement, Admiral Solis convened a high command meeting. Dune had promised to return with a full Ascendancy fleet, and everyone knew it would happen soon. Earth had ships, had resolve, but against the full Kesh armada, the odds were grim. That was when Earth's historian, Dr. Ilona Matviva, brought something unexpected to the table. "I've been researching archives from before the Mentorship Accord," she said, spreading old files across the table. "We didn't get faster-than-light technology from the Kesh. We rediscovered it from the wreckage of far older human systems, buried beneath ice stations in Antarctica. Humanity had its own deep space program long before the Kesh ever arrived. Something stopped it, a catastrophe we barely remember." She unrolled a diagram covered in unfamiliar symbols. "When the Kesh arrived, they offered help, on the condition we signed the accord. One clause forbade development of what were called resonance cores, engines far more powerful than anything they gave us. They called it a safety measure for our own good. Now I think it was a leash." "You're saying we could build ships far stronger than what we have?" Solis asked. "I'm saying we already did once," Ilona replied. "And then we were told to forget. So we forgot. Earth's government made its decision within a single night. Break the outdated accord and attempt to revive the technology that had been put to sleep 60 years ago. The work became a desperate race against time. Ilvath technicians found an unexpected kinship with the old human blueprints. The resonance cores resembled legends of the first star wanderers the Ilvath had heard long before the Kesh. "Seems we weren't the only ones someone kept on a leash," Sorel said, bent over the schematics beside the lead engineer. "The first modified destroyer, the Dawnbreaker, completed trials 10 days before intelligence confirmed the Kesh fleet was underway. 200 warships, the largest force the Ascendancy had ever assembled against a single target." Chapter 7. Friendship. Among the wreckage, Lieutenant Owen Tak met his friend Vantha at the observation deck. Vantha, an Ilvath engineer, had helped design the station's power systems. They'd met during the Kesh attack and had grown close since. "You look a lot better," Owen said, sitting beside him. "Enough food and real medical care work wonders." Vantha smiled. "My daughter asked me yesterday what Sarah was like. I realized I barely remember anything except the running." "Tell me anyway," Owen said. "We had forests that glowed at night with their own light," Vantha said. "We thought the Kesh were our protectors. Turns out we were just a convenient resource. Before all this, I thought humanity's purpose out here would be trade or science," Owen said. "I never imagined it would be giving shelter." "Maybe that's a better purpose," Vantha replied. The peace was fragile. Intelligence painted a grim picture. The Kesh Ascendancy wasn't gathering a strike group. It was assembling a true invasion fleet. Meanwhile, Ambassador Priya Ose traveled the galaxy, meeting with governments who had suffered under Kesh aggression, trying to persuade them to join a coalition against the Ascendancy. Many species had bent the knee to the Kesh out of fear, remembering the fate of those who'd resisted. But footage of the first battle spoke for itself. "I'm not asking you to sacrifice your worlds," she told the Council of the Mortiani, whose 2 colonies the Kesh had seized. "I'm asking you to stand with us in mutual defense. Together we're strong enough to resist. Alone, we all eventually fall." The Mortiani envoy, an elderly woman named Kesu, watched the battle footage with tears in her eyes. "You fought for beings you barely knew," she said. "We thought that kind of compassion had died out in this galaxy." "It hasn't died," Priya replied. "It just needed a chance to grow again." Slowly, the Coalition of Free Worlds was born. Chapter 8. The Face of Betrayal. On Elysium Station, Sorel was elected premier of the Ilvath people, the first election in 3 generations. The ceremony was held in the main plaza, attended by both Ilvath and human dignitaries. In her acceptance speech, Sorel spoke words broadcast across the station and across Earth. "We came to this system broken and desperate. We expected, at best, mere survival, a place to wait and hide until the Kesh found us again. Instead, we found something we thought no longer existed in this galaxy. We found compassion with no conditions. We found sacrifice with no expectation of reward." She paused, looking out at the crowd. Ilvath and human faces looked back at her. "Humanity didn't just give us shelter. It gave us our future back. Our children play in gardens again. Our artists create beauty again. And for that, we will stand beside Earth, now and always." The applause was deafening. True to her word, Sorel threw herself into Earth's defensive preparations. Ilvath engineers helped refine the resonance core design, blending ancient human technology with knowledge of their own, knowledge that, it turned out, had also been partly suppressed by their former patrons. One evening, Owen and Vantha sat again at the observation deck, watching construction crews work on new defense platforms around the station. "Do you think we can win?" Vantha asked. "When the Kesh come with a full fleet?" Owen was quiet for a moment. "I think we have something they don't. We're not fighting to conquer. We're fighting to protect. We're fighting for our homes, our families, our friends. That makes us stronger than any number of ships." "I hope you're right," Vantha said. "Because the Kesh are bringing 200 warships. Intelligence confirmed it yesterday." Owen felt a chill run through him. 200 ships. 10 times what they'd faced in the first skirmish. Even with the Coalition's help, they'd be badly outnumbered. "Then we'll have to be 10 times smarter," Owen said, trying to sound more confident than he felt. Chapter 9. Awakening. The warning came at dawn, Earth time. Long-range sensors detected massive subspace signatures at the edge of the solar system. 200 Kesh warships, the largest fleet the Ascendancy had ever assembled against a single target. At its head, Warden Dune's flagship, a dreadnought called the Absolute Dominion. Admiral Solis received the report in her quarters. She had barely slept, knowing this day was coming. Now it was here. "All stations, this is Admiral Solis. The Kesh fleet has arrived. Execute evacuation protocols. All civilian vessels proceed to the outer system immediately." Across the solar system, evacuation began, ships fleeing toward the outer planets. Mars opened its underground cities to refugees. On Elysium Station, the Ilvath faced a choice: evacuate with the other civilians or stay. The vote was unanimous. They would stay. This was their home. Earth's fleet took position. 120 warships, including the newly commissioned destroyers fitted with resonance cores, just brought online. They formed a defensive sphere around the station, but they weren't alone. As the Kesh fleet began its approach, new subspace signatures appeared. 50 ships from Coalition species emerged and took position alongside the human fleet. Mortiani cruisers, Fennet destroyers, Corallian carriers, species who had bowed to the Kesh for decades, now stood together in defiance. Warden Dune watched with cold satisfaction from his flagship. Even with reinforcements, the defenders were outnumbered more than 2 to 1. "All ships, advance in wall formation," Dune ordered. "Overwhelm them with fire." The Kesh fleet moved forward as a solid wall of metal and weapons. Admiral Solis watched them come. "All ships, hold position. Let them enter the kill zone." The Kesh drew closer. Closer still, their weapons charged, glowing with deadly energy. "Now," Solis said quietly. Space erupted with fire. Hidden among the asteroids and moons of Mars, automated defense platforms waited. Hundreds of them, built in secret over the past weeks, disguised as debris and abandoned satellites. Now they activated all at once. But the real surprise waited beyond that. The new destroyers, the Dawnbreaker and 6 sister ships, powered up their resonance cores. Engines put to sleep 60 years ago by order of friends who had, in truth, been wardens, blazed to life at full power for the first time in humanity's history. The ships didn't just accelerate. They seemed to vanish from one point in space and reappear at another, defying the limits that were supposed to hold them. Railgun volleys, amplified by the new power systems, tore through Kesh shields as though they weren't there. Warden Dune stared at his tactical display in mounting horror. "This is impossible," he whispered. "Their ships didn't have this power." Your data is 60 years out of date, Warden." Admiral Solis's voice came over the channel. "You taught us to fly. You forgot to teach us how low you'd kept us." The Dawnbreaker, under Captain Brandt's command, broke through the Kesh formation straight toward the flagship. The resonance core allowed maneuvers Kesh targeting systems simply couldn't compute in time. On the station, Lieutenant Owen Patak and Vantha were coordinating point defense when a different alarm sounded. Boarding pods. The Kesh were trying to take the station by force. "Vantha, stay here and coordinate defense. I'll handle the boarders." "I'm coming with you," Vantha said firmly. "This is my home too." They ran the corridors together, human and Ilvath soldiers behind them. Kesh warriors had breached the outer hull in Section 7. Owen and Vantha met them in a narrow corridor. The fighting was brutal, but the defenders held every junction. Not a single Kesh warrior made it past the first crossing. In space, the battle raged for hours. Ships on both sides were destroyed. But slowly, the balance tipped toward the coalition. Warden Dune lost more than half his fleet. The Absolute Dominion took critical damage from concentrated fire by the Resonance Core destroyers. "All ships retreat," Dune ordered, the words bitter as poison. The surviving Kesh vessels turned and fled into subspace. Earth's fleet pursued them to the edge of the system, made certain they were truly gone, and stopped. Chapter 10. A home worth fighting for Admiral Solis sat in her command chair, exhausted beyond words. Her uniform was torn and bloodied. Her ship had taken heavy damage. But they had won. Sorel contacted her from the station, looking just as worn. "Admiral, I don't know how to thank you. Your people gave everything to protect us." "You're not separate from us anymore," Solis replied. "You're part of us. When one of us is threatened, all of us respond. That's what it means to be human. And you are human now, in every way that matters." On Earth, celebrations broke out in every city. Not because they'd won a war, but because they'd saved lives. Because they'd stood for something. Because when refugees came asking for shelter, humanity's answer had been a resounding yes, backed by courage and sacrifice. But something even more important had happened. For the first time in 60 years, humanity had seen the true limit of its own capability, and understood that the limit had been artificial, imposed by those who called themselves friends. The resonance cores, put to sleep by the mentorship accord, proved that humanity had never been as weak as it had been made to believe. The news spread across the galaxy. The mighty Kesh Ascendancy, thought unbeatable, had been defeated by a young species and its allies. A species that, it turned out, had been artificially held back for years. Species who had submitted to the Ascendancy out of fear began to wonder. The coalition of free worlds grew. More species joined. More fleets were built. The age of Kesh dominance was ending, not through conquest, but through awakening. On Elysium Station, Owen and Vantha stood at the observation deck, watching the sun rise over Earth. The station had taken damage, but repair crews were already at work. In a few weeks, it would be as beautiful as before, maybe even more so. "Think they'll come back?" Vantha asked. "Maybe," Owen said. "But if they do, we'll be ready. And we won't be alone." Vantha nodded. "I've been thinking about what you said. That civilization is measured by how it treats those who can't protect themselves. But now, I think there's something else too. Real strength isn't the kind someone lets you have. It's the kind you remember on your own, when the time comes." Owen looked at his friend and smiled. "My grandfather told me something like that once, when I was a kid. He said the most dangerous lie is the one you believe about yourself." They both fell silent, watching the first rays of sunlight touch the station's ring, blending human and Ilvath light into something new. Earth had been asked not to be afraid. Earth hadn't just given shelter. It had remembered who it had always been. And this time, no one could put that memory back to sleep. Thank you for staying until the very end. If Sorel's fight, the awakening of the resonance cores, or the friendship between Owen and Vantha meant something to you, that's exactly why stories like this get made. Every view, every minute watched, tells me this kind of story is worth telling again. So if you enjoyed this one, hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed yet, subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. There's more where this came from. Thank you for watching. See you in the next story.